I mean, I have nothing to do with Russia.
I mean, I will tell you right now, zero. I have nothing to do with Russia.
I have no relationship to Russia whatsoever. I don't deal there.
I have nothing to do with Russia, folks, okay? I have nothing to do with Russia, folks.
I have no dealings with Russia. I have no deals in Russia. I have no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away.
I have nothing to do with Russia. I have, John, how many times do I have to say it? Are you a smart man? I have nothing to do with Russia. I have nothing to do with Russia.
Donald Trump insisted that he had no deals in Russia over the last 2 years. But after Michael Cohen's plea agreement with the special counsel this week, we know that his company was secretly pushing a deal for a Trump Tower in Moscow as late as June of 2016. And as more information comes to light, Trump continues to move the goalposts. Joining me now, E.J. Dionne, Washington Post columnist and co-author of One Nation Under Trump, MSNBC legal analyst Danny Cevallos, Nayyera, former advisor to the U.S. State Department, and Maria Teresa Kumar, president and CEO of Voto Latina. All welcome to the show. Before I get your reactions to yet another Rachel Maddow epic explanation of what was going on, I want to play what Congressman Adam Schiff had to say on This Week with George Stephanopoulos about Michael Cohen's plea this week. Let's take a listen to that first.
When this came to light, the Kremlin intervened. Mr. Peskov, the spokesman for the Kremlin, intervened to help Donald Trump and his business in the cover-up. That is so deeply compromising. And we have to remember what the Mueller investigation began as the Comey investigation was a counterintelligence investigation. That is an investigation into whether Donald Trump and his organization were compromised. And now, via Michael Cohen, we find out that, yes, there was compromise, and that puts our country at risk.
Now, he was talking about Dmitry Peskov, who is the press secretary to Russian President Vladimir Putin. And our own NBC's Keir Simmons caught up with Peskov yesterday in Buenos Aires, and here's their conversation.
Every week, dozens and dozens of foreign businessmen are approaching us, mentioning possible investments, searching for contacts.
But this is different. This is from the lawyer
for us, it's not different.
To future President Trump. This is from the lawyer to the future President Trump.
This is different. For you, he's a future President Trump. For us, it's one of the applicants. I mean, you have to understand that. You have to understand that.
Danny, one of the applicants. Give me your reaction to those two clips that we just saw, but also what Rachel had to say on Friday night.
Yeah, it's amazing because Rachel really drew the lines between all the dots that we needed to realize that maybe there really was a connection with Russia, a financial connection, and then the clear crimes were committed afterwards when everybody in the coterie went out and deceived, lied to Congress, lied under oath, made false statements to cover it up. And it's the old adage again, the cover-up is often worse than the crime because the clear crime emanating from a compromised candidate at the time isn't as apparent yet as the fact that those who went out and tried to cover it up did commit federal crimes, whether they were perjury, whether they were federal false statements. Those are all prosecutable crimes, and they've all been sussed out so far.
So given what Rachel explained to us just moments ago and originally on Friday night, are we closer to seeing the outlines of a conspiracy? I mean, collusion is the word that everyone uses, but the real legal term we're looking for is conspiracy. Are we any clearer today about how close the Trump campaign and the Russians were in terms of the 2016 election?
A conspiracy is generally an agreement in the criminal law, but you need some unlawful objective. And that's what I was just talking about, in that we need to find whether or not this constituted the violation of a federal law. And by that I mean, was it a violation of federal law to essentially create a quid pro quo between a head of a foreign government? You know, it's interesting, as I think about this, I've defended bribery cases, and when you try to give goodies to officials in America for their official conduct, that is bribery. That can be extortion. But here you have sort of an analogy to that crime, but happening abroad in Russia. It's an interesting thing that's been jumping out at me over the last day or two.
I want to get into the politics of all of this, and let me start with you, EJ. Give me your reaction from a political perspective of what Rachel laid out on Friday night and just the comments from Congressman Schiff about Dmitry Peskov.
Well, first, from the beginning, an awful lot of people felt that if there was a link in all of this, it was going to be money. There was going to be some linkage between Russia and Trump on money. And I think what was really important about the Cohen plea and what Rachel put together is we now see a money nexus here. And I think that there's a sense that we're going to have one heck of a December on this case because a whole lot of things are coming together at once. First, there is a direct link now between Trump and Russia on this building, and a lot of people lied about it, which is the second thing here, and which may be one of the legally actionable issues here. And third, Democrats are about to take over the Congress, and Adam Schiff has signaled that he's going to make a lot of things public. He's going to turn investigative material over to Mueller. So I think that it is, I think it would not surprise us if Trump did some very dramatic things, to put it gently. And I think that Mueller seems to be getting very, very close to drawing really clear links now between Donald Trump and Russia.
You know, Maria Teresa, as EJ was just saying, we're probably in for a tumultuous December. But next week promises to be super tumultuous. On or before December 4th, which I believe is Tuesday,
That's right.
prosecutors are to file a sentencing memo related to Michael Flynn. And then on December 7th, a factual filing due on Paul Manafort's alleged crimes and lies, which in both of these instances, we are going to get, for the first time, I think, the clear outlines of what the lies are, what the crimes were, and filling in a lot of the holes in the story that maybe even Rachel hasn't been able to figure out.
Right. Well, she has a day job, right?
Right.
No, but in all seriousness, what's really interesting is the hubris that the president has pursued this case. The way I keep thinking about it is that he's Icarus that's flown too close to the sun, and that sun is Mueller. Mueller has been very sophisticated, and you could argue has really methodically laid out a case in ways that most folks hadn't even paid attention to. If you look at the Manafort agreement, he basically said that the only line that's basically missing from his agreement compared to all the other witnesses say that they cannot have conversations with anybody else about the case. That is missing from the Manafort case. And now you're finding leakage that his lawyers have been speaking to the president's lawyers. It's almost as if Mueller has set a trap and they've fallen into it, and the president knows. My concern, though, is to see what kind of this type of volatility, the president with his back against the wall, what is he going to do? How is he going to deflect? What other issues is he going to, what other kind of chaos is he going to create for the American people? One of the things, for example, that we saw, the more that we started hearing about the Manafort plea deal, the fact that he was lying, we started shifting to looking at the border. There was tear gas that happened on the border. He closed the border. In my opinion, that was a big deflection on the part of the president. What else is he going to do? But then we also start looking at the political angle. What does this mean even for the 2020 candidates? And the only person right now best positions on the Democratic side to talk about prosecution is the only prosecutor that we have right now on the short list, and that is Kamala Harris. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going to play out on who is going to be possibly the nominee. But the Democrats need to be able to show two things. One is that they're serious about coming to the root of what is happening in this investigation. But at the same time, they have to make sure that they're putting points on the board for the American people to see how they are different from the party and from Trumpism.
You know, Nayyera, Maria Teresa talked about how the president is creating chaos for the American people, but Michael Cohen is someone who's been creating chaos for the president. I want to play President Trump's reaction to Michael Cohen's guilty plea on Thursday. Take a listen.
What he's trying to do, because he's a weak person and not a very smart person, what he's trying to do is end, and it's very simple. He's got himself a big prison sentence, and he's trying to get a much lesser prison sentence by making up a story. Now, here's the thing. Even if he was right, it doesn't matter, because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign. I was running my business, a lot of different things during the campaign. So very simply, Michael Cohen is lying, and he's trying to get a reduced sentence for things that have nothing to do with me.
Nayyera, there's a lot going on there. Clearly, the president is concerned about Michael Cohen and what he has already told the special counsel in, 70 hours worth of meetings with the special counsel.
There's so much in that statement that reflects on Donald Trump's psychology as president in this moment. I mean, the focus on his own lawyer, who previously was his consigliere, taking care of all of his projects for him, and now disavowing him so publicly, even though what Michael Cohen is saying is that he did all of this because he was trying to help his president. To the emphasis on how everything he did in the campaign, he was allowed to do, everything's okay. Mind you, this is literally on the heels of him going to a major world summit in which he's supposed to be meeting with foreign leaders, talking about all of the trade challenges that he's created, to sanctions, to the Khashoggi case, all of these foreign policy challenges that he is completely dogged by and overwhelmed by what's happening here domestically in the United States. Now, add on to that, the only person in this entire saga that he has not disavowed is Vladimir Putin.
Right.
And that is, he was literally on Air Force One, headed over there, with all of us here in the United States expecting that he would have a lengthy one-on-one meeting with Putin. He'd cancel meetings with Turkey, where they're critical to the Khashoggi case and refugee issues. He canceled meetings with South Korea, which is critical to North Korea, but he was still willing to have a long session with Vladimir Putin.
And with that, we're going to have to leave it there.
Something, Jonathan?
EJ, I'm sorry, we're going to have to go. But you
I
all,
just wanted to build on that.
Well, you all are coming back later in the show. But up next, presidential historian